Welcome to the Collector's Cast. Hey, everybody. I'm your host, Clint the Collector, Clint Wilson. Here, as always, with me is my good friend, Mike Bloski. How are you doing today, Mike?
Awesome, Clint. Awesome. Exciting show today.
Yes.
I'm as giddy as a schoolgirl.
Well, we're talking about design, and we know that you love interior decorating. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to talk about people that collect for the necessity of using it in their interior design, in their everyday job, setting things up. And we've got a great guest coming on, too.
Yeah, fantastic guest.
Because we went and visited him today, and we'll get into that a little bit later, what we saw at his place. And he's going to be, I think, very informative. I like learning. I like learning more than I like teaching. And I find that whenever I talk to Rob, I learn something new.
Yeah, he's a very, very informative guy.
Yes.
He knows, just like I said,
and he's a guy that you could take anything, like we just kind of have a random array on the table today.
Yeah.
You could take any item and just say, Rob, I've got this helmet here, this Spartan helmet. I want to do a Spartan themed pub in my basement, and let him go. He'll take that one thing and he'll build Sparta in your basement.
And you'll think you're there.
Yeah.
You will think you're there, literally.
His skills are awesome. But rather than talk about him, why don't we just go to break and get him out here, and we're going to be right back with Mr. Rob Forde. Thank you very much. We'll see you in a few.
See you soon.
And welcome back to the Collector's Cast. We're here with our very special guest today, doing a design episode. And here's a man who takes collectibles and does all sorts of designing with them. Rob Forde, welcome to the show. No relation to Mayor Rob Forde. He's got an E on the end of his name. We've clarified this. And as Rob said, it was the toughest year of his life while Rob was famous in Toronto there.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for getting that off the table.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to get it out of the way so people could get their Rob Forde out. Okay, now we're done with it. Yeah, his name's Rob Forde. So what? Let's go on.
We thought of calling him some other, giving him another name, but it just wasn't going to work.
So one thing about our guest today that's different than other guests we've had on, Mike and I, my co-host, went today and visited Rob at his own domicile and saw what he did firsthand. And boy, what do you think, Mike? It was your first time there.
First of all, I got to say, Rob, I was absolutely blown away when I came into your house. I generally am not at a loss for words, but it took me a few minutes of just looking around, and I was like, wow. The craftsmanship of the stuff you've done and the way you've put stuff together and the things that you've utilized, I'm not even going to try to describe it, but it's unbelievable.
Well, our listeners will need it described.
You've got people wondering now.
Your place today was unbelievable, like the old Irish pub.
Well, thank you so much. That's a very nice compliment. And
it was.
I get to hear it a bit because when people come in for the first time especially, they're often affected in that way, and they're comparing it to Disneyland and that sort of thing. So thank you again.
I want one more thing I got to say, because please. When we left, when Clint and I walked out of there today, I said to Clint, I got to tell you something, pal. Remind me if I don't tell Rob when I see him.
He did say this.
But it's been a long time since I felt that good going into a place. Like the great feeling I had when I walked out of your place, wow, made my day.
He was grinning ear to ear.
Yeah.
It was just like a kid that had been to Disneyland.
Awesome.
So we don't leave people wondering anymore. I'm going to summarize very quickly that Rob here designs custom bars, custom settings, if you will, theme builds. And in his basement of his fairly large house, you've got about 7 or 8 displays going around, an old Irish pub, the Beatles Cavern Club, on and on it goes. So rather than me telling about it, let's get a little history. What brought you here? What makes you do it? Give us all the goods.
It all started with a special moment.
A special moment.
A special moment. 8 years ago, approximately.
Okay.
I visited a fellow in town in Chilliwack here who had built a little English pub as part of his business. I knew him slightly through town, so I thought, I'll go check this out. It sounded kind of interesting. As soon as I entered his little English pub he had built, I was just kind of like Mike's situation. I was gobsmacked, and I thought, this is the most fantastic thing I've ever seen. And if I could do this in the future, I think that would be the most wonderful contribution I could make to society.
Well, guess what? You're making it now because
beyond
you're
being a
there.
doctor, yeah.
You're doing it.
So I pretty much made the decision. I literally had a beer with him at his bar and said, you know what? I'm going to start doing this, but I'm going to build the Irish Viking. I'm an Irish Norwegian, so I thought, what better theme to pick than your heritage?
And you certainly have done that. We're going to try and get some pictures up on our Instagram later, so we're going to bug you for a few photos.
Sure.
But yeah, the craftsmanship, I think that's why Mike was blown away so heavily too, is he himself is a carpenter who builds and creates, and he knows what goes into this. And it's I guess you must learn as you go, obviously. You didn't just get born knowing all things carpentry.
Right. No, I mean, I certainly took a little woodwork in high school, but with me, I'm not afraid to try things.
Sure.
So whether it was chainsaw carving or this new venture of building these theme spaces, I just sort of jump right in and see how it goes. And yes, I do make mistakes, but people often don't notice them.
Yeah.
I think part of the key is it's not like cabinetry where it has to be perfect. Mistakes are acceptable. Vintage is full of flaws,
inaccuracies.
Yeah,
Sure.
and that sometimes adds even more character.
Absolutely. Well, especially when you're doing that old, middle-aged construction. Every beam is hoary and hairy and wavy and got nicks and scratches and scrapes. So it's kind of neat that you get to be messy on purpose a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, and one of the things that I immediately thought of when I was looking at everything, I thought, holy smokes, Rob takes an item and he incorporates it into this theme. And it's unbelievable. Like where your buffet is. That was amazing.
Where the Claymore's hanging up top?
Where the
there?
Claymore's
Claymore's
hanging.
above, yeah.
Yeah. That's I'm just trying to describe what it is. Came out of a church,
it's
obviously.
a portion of a church altar screen carved in 1852 out of England, and I acquired it through an auction, and it was falling apart. And after a little bit of putting back together and building pieces to replace pieces that were missing and adding a little creativity from myself, it's now the backdrop for that buffet that caught your eye.
Yeah, and
it's special.
That'll be, again, something we'll need a picture of.
We'll send you a picture.
Amazing how many, even just like small pieces, those ropes, in your nautical theme, the ropes that were coming out of the wall. It was just absolutely amazing. So, if you want a theme built,
well,
Rob is your guy.
This show, obviously, we deal with collecting and why people collect. And your case is a little different from other guests that we've had on, is that you're collecting out of necessity for your designing. And it kind of makes you a little bit different of an animal. I mean, sure, you like the things that you're looking at, but they've all got a purpose in mind, and they add something. So it's kind of a neat, different angle to look at it from.
Yeah, for me, the real goal is creating something special around that piece.
Sure.
So, yes, I do love the pieces. So when someone comes up to me and says, hey, will you sell me this helmet? Often I'll say, well, no, because I have plans for that helmet in someone's home in the future who wants something built around it. So, yeah, it's.
But you were telling me you love when somebody brings you one thing and says, "I want a room built around this."
That's the best.
That's your springboard for creativity.
Or even better. Oh, I've read this novel. I love this novel. Can you create this environment in my home that I'm reading about in this novel?
Yeah.
Well, first, I got to read the novel, and then I'll try to do that.
For sure. I'd be like, geez, did they make a movie? Can I rent a movie version of it?
Is it on cassette tape so I could just listen to it?
Well, people do that with movies as well. You'll see, I can't think of it. I'm sure people do Star Wars rooms and things like that. But I heard of, when you were talking about recreating a room from a novel, made me think of the Ferris Bueller's Day Off bedroom. Somebody recreated Ferris Bueller's bedroom from the movie to the exact, and it was a big thing. And they had like press come in, and the two actors that played his parents came and were guests there. Who, incidentally, a little nugget of trivia, they got married after doing that movie together. Wow. The actor and actress that played Ferris Bueller's parents met on set, and that's where they hooked up and ended up together forever.
You're a Beatles fan.
I am.
You're a Beatles fan.
Sure am.
I was never a huge Beatles fan, but
that's okay.
When I went into Rob's basement, and so just explain to our listeners, Rob, what you have created in your basement.
For those who know the Beatles, they know the Cavern Club. That's the club in Liverpool where they first started. They played it 252 times. And it's a very famous place. I've been there myself. Wonderful ambiance. So I thought when I was going to have a music room in my basement, I thought what better place to play music than the Cavern Club.
Sure.
So I recreated the Cavern Club, or a miniature version of it, in our space down in my art studio. And it's wonderful.
And
Yeah.
we talked about this earlier today when we were there, that even though it's a smaller scale version, the original Cavern Club wasn't very big. You got 4 skinny little teenage boys squeezed onto that stage. But I noticed that in the old pictures too, that it does look like a cavern. It's got that arched
Yes.
brick ceiling, and you've recreated that quite
Yeah.
wonderfully there.
Yeah.
And I never even reached up and touched it. Are those real bricks?
No.
Oh, okay. I have no idea. What
That's
did you do?
all. It's drywall mud that I've carved into bricks.
Jeez, you had me fooled. I would have believed you
And
if
then
you'd said those were real
textured,
bricks.
painted.
Did you know that?
Now when he said
Now
that,
that you
I'm
say
just
it, you
like,
think about it.
oh my gosh.
But they look like real bricks. I had no idea they were fake.
Yeah.
But you talk about learning as you go. Well, I learned about 1/4-inch drywall after that project. So I was trying to bend 1/2-inch drywall by wetting it and whatnot. And
Oh.
it can be done, but it's not easy, and it often breaks. And so there's flaws. But yes, 1/4-inch drywall for those who are trying to make a Cavern Club is recommended.
And up to now, I thought that they just made the thinner drywall so you could have a slightly larger room. And there was other
No, it's
design behind it.
bendable for sure.
The other thing that would just absolutely blow me away is I'm going to call it the Houdini cage.
Oh,
Wow.
yes. What do you describe that?
The Houdini cage all began simply because I wanted a pinball machine. And when I started looking at pinball machines, they come in all different types of themes. But Houdini for me really grabbed me. I just like that, the era and just the man himself. I enjoyed that. So I thought, well, let's get the Houdini cage and let's do something with that. What could I do? Well, bang, let's build a cage around Houdini, of course, right?
Yes.
And it's full of dangerous elements in there and signs warning of such and whatnot. So
Yeah,
it's become a feature in the basement.
Another
now, too.
thing we'll get a picture of up on the Instagram.
Yeah.
It looks like a cell, a jail cell in a dungeon with this Houdini pinball machine in there. And I always thought, like Houdini, loved Houdini stuff, and I always thought in my mind there was always something sinister about Houdini. And so the way you played it, I was like, wow.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got that image about him. Well, he dealt with the occult a lot. He was really into that, trying to, people still, I think, try to raise him on his birthday every year through seance. An interesting, dark character. I look at that cage, and like I told you earlier, I see an electric chair in there. That just looks like a dangerous place in general.
Well, that's not too sinister.
No, it's great, though.
But, just if I interject again, the thing about Rob's stuff is I noticed that then I start seeing stuff that I know that Rob got from you,
Yeah.
things in there. And I'm saying, like, this is just, it's when we talk about this world of collecting, first of all, maybe altogether, Rob's an unbelievable designer of stuff and these spaces and that, it's incredible. But he also has to be a collector because he has to find this stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
And figure out how it's going to work. So,
But now we've already, him and I have discussed this, and you'll confirm that your collecting being based on design kind of puts you in a different place where nothing has to be, I don't have to have that exact $1,000 sign that everybody, that sign collectors want. I could just have something that looks good there. And whether it be an aftermarket piece or something you've made. So a lot of the stuff you collect, as you've pointed out, doesn't cost you a ton. You're not putting out a pocket. Right. You're often able to trade. You do like doing a lot of trading. I know that from your visits here. You're into trading. Everybody keeps their money in their pocket.
Yeah,
and
I love to trade.
Gets a little bit ahead of the game.
And when people say to me, what are you doing now? I say, I'm a picker, artist, contractor.
Sure.
Probably in that order.
Well, the two great things that we saw in your house, say, were those big pieces of rope Mike brought up. The real thick nautical rope, but they're only 6 feet long or something. You said you picked those up for a few dollars because who's going to do anything with those short lengths of rope? Well, a designer can do a lot. Yeah. And they look fantastic where they are. You wouldn't know that they were throwaways or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another amazing piece that I saw at your place was that box with 2 vintage curling stones.
Oh, yes.
From Canistino, Saskatchewan. And I was and then as we got talking about that you were a high level curler yourself.
I'm not sure if you noticed that they have initials carved in them.
I did not notice.
Yeah, I didn't think you got close enough, but JB is carved into them. Just out of interest, back in the day, because they're very old stones, people would carve their initials right
So they were
into the rocks.
personalized like a bowling
Oh, yeah.
ball or
No, you would
whatever.
take your rocks
Yeah,
to the
you would
rink
take-
with you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and you don't know the
Wooden
history on them,
handles.
eh? You don't know who JB was?
No, I don't. But
Still cool.
I
that they
happen to
might
have a son-in-law with those initials.
Ah.
So he'll probably end up with those rocks
It
someday.
just works out that way.
And a daughter with those initials too. So
Yeah.
together.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's funny how things like that can tie you to a piece. I noticed a piece in your place, a David Spencer sign today that was the original company before Eaton's, you figured?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, and I have an uncle, David Spencer. I went, wow, the only reason I was drawn immediately to that sign is because the name happened to be the same as my uncle's name. Same with initials. It could fit a lot of different situations. You kind of you adapt the piece to whatever you can.
Yeah.
But you know how we always say we like to talk about collecting and all things collectible and everything to do with collecting. And I just wanted to go back to those stones. I looked at Canistano, Saskatchewan. I'm a Saskatchewan boy, and immediately, how we connect with whether something we're collecting or something someone else is collecting. And I see that Canistano, Saskatchewan, and I go back to Canistano Tiger Bruins. There was their junior B hockey team, and they had given me an invite to their training camp, and at that point in time, I was gone off to play with Saskatoon Blades. But it was just a really good feeling of seeing those things. Not to mention that I'm a huge curling fan to start with.
And you yourself have curled.
And I've
hundreds
curled,
of times,
and it's great. It was just, but unbelievable how this collecting brings out so many emotions in us, right?
Oh, yeah.
And creates new friendships, and you get to meet new people, and
Yes.
it's
We
great.
talked about that personal collection again today, and Rob will be the first to admit, I'm sure, that all your pieces have some sort of a personal connection, or your displays have a personal
sure.
connection. Like the one is your wife's farm she grew up on,
Yeah.
kind of farm related. It's not just a farm display, it's your wife's farm display.
Correct.
And so on and so forth. So I think that's really neat that you get, and I think once you get personally invested, it drives the creativity that much more, and
Oh,
it just
yeah.
drives everything, drives the project into being something so much more.
On that note, just to give you an idea, right now I'm doing an Irish pub for a family in town here. And when most people think of an Irish pub, they think of a bar and some clovers and whatnot. But I'm going a step further. We're not just doing any Irish pub. We've chosen a town, so it's in Killarney.
Oh, okay.
We've chosen that the owners are Patrick and Mary O'Reilly, so it's O'Reilly's Bar. And we've got a picture of them on the wall even. So I mean,
Are these based on real people that you?
it's all fictitious.
Oh, okay.
But there's a picture of an old couple there that's now been signed, Patrick and Mary
So
O'Reilly.
you've
and
created this
I've created this
backstory out
whole
of nothing,
backstory
but
out of nothing.
it looks like a real story.
Exactly. So when 1895 is when the pub was first built. So I'm building this 130-ish year old pub, and hopefully capturing people's imagination when they visit.
That's really neat because even though it never existed, it's almost like it did.
Yeah.
Because you're doing it out of some sort of an archive or
Exactly.
record that you've created yourself, but you're still doing. It gives you something to go off of rather than just kind of shooting in the dark and and doing it willy nilly. That's really cool. That's a way to do it that I never thought of.
Back to Rob's place.
Yeah.
and not only this display, representing where his wife grew up, but then in the other side, the thoroughbred horse farm, where your dad was.
Yeah.
That was an amazing, an attachment to that because my daughter is an equestrian and has a thoroughbred. But when I seen it, I was like, wow, like my daughter would just love. She'd stare at this for hours. And then moving along to the pub. Or the pub, another pub in your basement from London, and the amazing
the bomb
story-
shelter.
the bomb
Yeah,
shelter,
yeah, the bomb
and
shelter.
you've got that old practice bomb hanging there, and the story of that sign. And again, another thing we always talk about collecting is the stories behind
Oh,
things.
the Hayes Muse sign.
Muse.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. we should explain to the.
Let's let
listeners.
Rob explain
Yeah,
that
the
sign
Hayes
that he
Muse sign in your bomb shelter pub.
Well, I'll give you the whole rundown. It all started with me at a garage sale in Rosedale. And
Okay.
I found a picture of a war veteran, for a few dollars.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, this picture is beautiful shape, bubble glass. So I brought it home and I thought I have to build something around this picture. So what better than a London 1945 World War II themed bar, and
Sure.
we'll hang this kid behind the bar.
Sure.
So I started to put it together, and before long, I named it the bomb shelter bar, and hung this kid back there, and soon found the practice bomb to have coming in over the bar. And then it was years later, I'll say 2-3 years later, I was in an antique store that I do some trading with, and I saw this porcelain sign, beautiful sign, Hayes Mews. And I didn't know a lot about the Mews, but I knew in London they called the back alleys the Mews, or the carriages.
MEWS.
MEWS.
Was the carriage parking or the alleyway?
Yeah, the alleyway.
Sure.
So I made a deal with the owner for this sign, did some trading, and brought it home and started to do some research, because I like to really know when I get something, learn
Sure.
about it. So I looked up Hayes Mews, and darned if Hayes Mews wasn't bombed in 1940 and destroyed completely. So this 1920s porcelain sign was on the ground. Someone picked it up, put it in a secondhand store. Somehow it ended up in Canada, in Langley, at my friend's store, where I traded him for it, and now it's in my basement.
And
Amazing.
the only thing to survive a bombing is now hanging in your bomb shelter
Exactly.
pub.
Exactly.
That's just a
and
great
if you
little
visit
tie-in.
London, go to Hayes Mews, you'll see a new sign.
Ah,
Newer,
A newer sign.
1950-ish.
if there's somebody standing there, I know where your original
Yeah.
sign is, but I'm not telling you where. Because wow, that is so cool. So I guess that was going to be one of my next questions, is what you're up to now. So you're building this Irish pub.
Yes.
For some people. We are kind of running long on time. Any other projects in the near future that you could see, or anything you want to tackle that you haven't gotten to yet?
They just sort of thankfully come to me as my time frees up.
Yes.
I would be a little bit scared if I had 2 or 3 on the go at once, because I don't sleep well as it is thinking about all these creative ideas.
Wow.
So when I finish this Irish pub, there's another couple that I think I'll be talking to, but nothing in stone yet.
Now, I know your unofficial, sorry, Mike, is
go ahead,
Doc
Mike.
Studio, because
Yes.
you are a chiropractor by trade.
Retired, yes.
Yes, and Doc Studio. Now, if somebody wanted to look at your stuff, do you have a website or any place they can?
I actually don't have a website because I found that it was too much. And people contacted me from too far away. So I just work locally. I might go as far as Abbotsford, but I stay within about a 50-kilometer radius.
Well, let's just say if somebody tuning into the show lives somewhere in the Fraser Valley and they really want to hire Rob for his services and have something built, get a hold of us here at the Collectors Cast. Feedback at thecollectorscast.com is where you send us all your inquiries, questions, whatever, and say, look, I really want to get a hold of Rob Forde to have him do a theme pub in my basement. And I'll hook you up because I know him personally, and
I was actually
I'll screen them all. If they're from Timbuktu, I'll say no. He's not
well,
interested.
in fairness, I was talking to a fellow from Florida not too long ago because he wanted me to help him with his pub, and I said, you know what? I would just make the trip down and help you do it. And we'd spend a couple weeks and
Oh wow,
whap
great
something out,
excuse
right?
for a vacation. yeah.
Exactly. So if it turned into sort of a working vacation, that would be a different story.
Yeah,
But to be running
nothing
back
that
and
money
forth,
can't solve, right?
Exactly.
Trust me, listeners.
Yeah.
If you have a theme pub or any type of a theme room in your future of your house, contact Rob, because
Well, first thing we're going to do when
amazing.
we get off the air, I'm going to make sure that our producer Aiden has Rob's contact, or vice versa, so Rob can send us pictures of everything we've talked about today. We'd definitely like to have a look for our listeners and viewers of the Irish pub, the Irish Viking pub,
Sure.
the Cavern Club, of course, the bomb shelter. The
Houdini
farm
cage.
display, the Houdini cage, anything we've
the
talked
thoroughbred
about.
display.
Just take look for about 100 pictures being uploaded to our.
I should mention that one of my favorite projects wasn't a pub at all, because sometimes people think I just build pubs, but it was actually an 18th century ship captain's office for this lady's working space.
Oh, I think I remember you talking
Yeah,
about that.
I actually got stuff
You
off
got
of
some
you
stuff from me,
for
nautical.
that. Yes.
Yeah.
And it was a wonderful space. So it isn't always a pub, but that is
Sure.
very popular.
Well, yeah, and you'd be a handy guy if somebody was setting up a museum somewhere. You'd be a handy guy to put together displays.
Sure.
Too. Geez, the possibilities are endless. When it comes to designing, this guy knows. We're out of time for today, but we always like having a future guest in the wings, sort of thing. So we'll let you get a few things going, a few things built, and when you have new news, you can come back and tell us all about it.
Sounds good.
Everybody, this has been Rob Forde. We'll be right back after this break. Thank you very much, Rob.
Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot, Rob. Great having you.
And we're back. Wasn't Rob a neat guest?
Oh, man, I'll tell you, I could talk to that guy all day.
I know.
And I mean, to go to his house, go to his home, the just how nice it was to be invited into his home and to see what he has there. Whoa. Like, I'm not kidding you, Clint.
And the skills putting it all together.
But pal, when we went into that Irish Viking pub
Yes.
in his basement, I thought that I was in an Irish Viking pub.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like, because there was nowhere where you looked and go, oh, I see a piece of gyprock or something. Yeah. I thought I was in Ireland back in the Viking days.
No, the only thing he uses gyprock for is making bricks, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
That's something that fooled us. We both go there and think it's real bricks on the roof, and it's not.
Yeah, and one thing we didn't see, as I noticed when we were there, I should have said this when he was on, but there was a few things you said to him. Well, would you be interested in selling that? And he was like, no, maybe down the road. But he also, aside from being this fantastic design guy and contractor and creator of these spaces, he is a collector.
Yes.
Like,
obviously.
I guess what I want to say.
He has that same feeling that we do.
Yeah,
when he sees an
and
item.
his heart, right at the, he is a collector first and foremost.
Excellent. Yeah, and we're gonna follow Rob's progress and see where he goes in the future and what projects he takes on. We'll definitely have him back down the road.
I'm hoping he invites me for a pub night.
Yes, you might very well get invited. I did have one trivia question saved up for the end of the show, and because Rob does custom pubs, it's a pub trivia, not pub trivia like when you go to the pub and play trivia, which I'm pretty good at. This is a trivia question regarding pubs. And my question is, what is the oldest pub in the world? Did you want to take a stab at that?
Well, I don't know. I'm thinking it dates back to Roman times.
It's, you know what? I guess there were still Romans around. Well, I'll just tell you. I'll just tell everybody so we all know together. It was established in 900 AD.
Whoa.
So it's well over 1,000 years old. It's a place called Sean's Bar. It's located on the banks of River Shannon in Athlone, Ireland, or Athlone, Ireland. Was served up, and it served drinks for nearly as long as people have gathered together to enjoy them. Sean's Bar rather, in Ireland. 900 AD it was established.
I should have known it was the Irish.
Yeah, well, yeah. Not that we're saying Irish people drink more than other people.
We love the Irish.
We love the Irish. I think there's even some in my blood somewhere. So, yeah, that's been trivia. And so what do you have there, Mike, as far as a listener question goes?
Jeffrey from North Vancouver.
Jeffrey from North Vancouver, where the prices of property are high. Go ahead.
What is our favorite drinking-related collectible?
Well, you know, it's funny that this question is asked today, and I will share some personal information with the viewership. I no longer partake in the alcohol. I gave it up. It was a personal choice. I didn't need it anymore, and today is my 2-year anniversary of not drinking.
Congratulations,
alcohol.
pal.
But I thank you very much. I still love collecting the signs, though. I still love alcohol advertising, and I've got a personal one in here. Is that Budweiser sign I have? We'll get a picture up on that real fancy one. It's just a 70s sign, but it's got such a look to it. We will definitely get it up on the Instagram, which is at the Collectors Cast, by the way.
My favorite is also alcohol related, are the crazy plastic signs. Remember you had that one...
like the Paul Stanley designed, not Kiss Paul Stanley. There was a guy that designed 3D beer signs in the 60s. Yeah. The old Schlitz with the globe, things like that.
All that, and then the lit up inside and all the molded plastic.
That Miller Lite one I had, was there? Or the Miller High Life with the spinning thing inside that made it look like a Vegas hotel sign. Yeah. They got real creative with some of those beer signs. It's funny, both our collectibles are beer signs.
Yeah.
Another thing, I guess if you had to say things that you collect related to drinking would be drinking stories. I collect stories about things that happened to me while I was drinking. That could be a whole other show, though.
Trying to keep this around the PG.
Okay. Well, no. Okay. Yeah, you're right. We'll just leave it at that. Thanks for sending us that message all the way from North Vancouver. And anybody has a question or a comment or an idea for a future show, it's feedback@thecollectorscast.com. Please drop us a line. We love hearing from you folks.
Love to, and even if it's not a question, if it's a comment, you want to tell us that we should lose weight or something like that.
Yeah.
No, just any type of a comment, send it on to us. And we love hearing from you.
And by the way, we already do know that we need to lose weight.
Yeah,
That's not something you have to point out, but thank you.
I think you're both beautiful the way you are.
Oh, geez. That's Aiden, our producer, giving us all the love. Anyway, somebody must sign his check. This has been the Collector's Cast. You guys have all been wonderful. We're going to do it again next week. Please come back and join us. I've been Clint. He's been Mike. You've all been wonderful.
Take care and be safe out there.
Thank you.